My name is Rebecca MacRae. This is my informative speech. Orphaned as a babe, imprisoned as a child, and then was crowned a queen. Even though this sounds like a story of Cinderella, it is actually the life of Catherine de' Medici, who became Queen of France. Despite the fact that Catherine only wore the crown of Queen Consort of France, and the term consort states that the person is only married to the monarch, she acted as regent during a time of war. She secured the throne for not just one of her sons, but for two of them, and was regent during their minorities. And she was an advocate for religious tolerance. Catherine de' Medici was born in Florence, Italy on April 13th, 1519. She was the daughter of Lorenzo de' Pero de' Medici, who was the Duke of Urbino, and Madeleine de la Tour d'Auvergne, who was a Bourbon princess. Catherine's mother died of peripheral fever on April 28, 1519, and her father only survived a few days later, but ultimately passed on May 4th, 1519. This left Catherine an orphan when she was not even a month old. She was raised by female members of her family and was educated by nuns. At the age of 8, in 1527, Catherine became a prisoner for no reason but the family she was born into. Due to the fact that Pope Clement VII, Catherine's uncle, was at war with Charles V, the province of Florence overthrew the Medici family, who had governed them for decades. They imprisoned the young Catherine for 3 years. Near the end of her imprisonment, at the age of 12, the siege of Florence caused the people to want Catherine to be killed, to have her be chained to the city walls naked, or to be handed over to soldiers to do with as they saw fit. When Pope Clement finally crowned Charles V Holy Roman Emperor, he was once again secured in power, and Catherine was released. She then went to Rome to live under his guardianship. In 1533, at the age of 14, Catherine was wed to Prince Henry, Duke of Orleans, the son of King Francis I of France. In 1549, Catherine was crowned Queen Consort of France. The marriage between Henry and Catherine was not a harmonious one. Henry was known to have several mistresses, with his official mistress being 20 years older than him. But through their marriage, ambassadors marked how much Catherine loved and respected her husband, even though he did not love her in return. Henry did show the respect he had for Catherine when in 1552 he named her regent while he was on a war campaign. It was stated before Parliament that if he goes there, he will leave the Queen, his wife, as regent with his son and his council, and he wants them to obey as they would his own person. Henry then named her regent again in 1553 when he was on another war campaign. King Henry died in 1553, and his and Catherine's son, Francis, was named king. Francis was 15 and considered of age, so Catherine accepted the title of Queen Mother and stayed out of political affairs. It was when Francis died in 1560 that his 10-year-old brother Charles was then king. This caused Catherine to re-enter politics. To gain regency, Catherine worked within the restrictions of her time. She stated that it was her love as a mother and her role as a mother to justify her position. She and her advisors argued that it was a mother's duty to teach and raise her son to become a man, and that she still needed to do this for 10-year-old Charles. Since the council remembered her devotion to her husband Henry II and the success she achieved during the time she was regent, they consented to have Catherine as regent for her son, and she chose to have Anton de Bourbon, King of Navarre, as the lieutenant general. France during the time that Catherine was alive was in constant religious chaos. Protestantism was on the rise and viewed as heresy by the Catholics. Catherine knew that her sons being Catholic rulers, that this hostility between the faiths would only cause trouble for the reign, and tried her best to reconcile the two parties. In 1561, Catherine brought together leaders of both faiths to the Council of Poissy. Catherine wanted to find a reason to unite the faiths, but it was to no avail. In 1562, Catherine issued the Edict of Saint Germain, which permitted the Protestants to practice their faith in private assemblies in the Catholic nation. Catherine went as far as to marry her daughter, a Catholic French princess, to the King of Navarre, a Protestant, to show that the two faiths could live together peacefully. But even with all of Catherine's assistance, this religious divide caused multiple civil wars during her son's reign. Catherine was again named regent by Charles on his deathbed until his brother Henry could be crowned King of France. Even though Henry was of age when he took the throne, he relied heavily on his mother's counsel since he did not have any interest in state affairs. Catherine spent her later years traveling her son's kingdom, enforcing his will, and continued to meet with religious leaders to try to seek reconciliation. Catherine died on January 5th, 1589, at the age of 65. From a young age, Catherine de' Medici tried to embody a strong woman. She did not do this by acting like a man, for she knew that in the time she lived in, it would have gotten her nowhere. Instead, she worked within the confines of her gender and in the time in which she lived to be successful. It is because of that that she was able to hold a position that no female royal had been able to hold before her, the regency of a young king. She was a woman ahead of her time by working within her time. Thank you.